Having expensive gear and fancy equipment is great, but if you don't have the fitness to back it up, none of it matters. If you can't simply run 2 miles without getting out of breath or carry a heavy pack for an extended period of time, then having this super expensive gear doesn't really matter. Hello, and welcome back to Mission Ready Society. I'm your host, Orrin Price, and in today's video, we're switching gears a little bit from what we normally do. Instead of talking about some sort of piece of gear or doing a review or talking about some sort of survival skill or something like that, today we're talking about fitness, and more specifically fitness when it applies to tactical scenarios. Now, something I don't think I've talked about in the past, myself, I am a pre-physical therapy student actually currently, so this is kind of my area of interest a little bit as well, and my area of study. So today's video, I think, it's going to be a lot of talking, and it's not going to necessarily be as hands-on as maybe my videos normally are, but this is extremely valuable information, and I think that it's something everybody should know, and maybe if you do already know it, you'll learn something new today as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to kind of talk about in today's video is kind of like modern gym culture, right? So if you go on social media, you'll see these bodybuilders and all of these like super jacked people, and it's all well and good to be big and be strong, but the thing that is kind of is wrong, I guess, for being a tactical athlete is a lot of like conventional workouts, like bench press and squats. Those are all very strict movements, and they work like one specific muscle, right? So a prime example of this that I can kind of think of, right, is that somebody might be able to bench like 225 pounds, right? But they can't carry 50 pounds on their back for more than half a mile, right? And being able to carry heavy loads and do those kinds of movements are more important for tactical scenarios than it is going to be how much you can bench or how much you can squat, right? So from like a scientific perspective, I'm just going to use bench press because it's the easiest, kind of exercise or workout I can kind of think of, and it's something that everybody really knows, right? So bench press, when you're doing a bench press, right, it's very strict on the muscles that it's using. But the thing that you don't do is you don't, like obviously your shoulders are working to stabilize yourself during that workout, but you're not throwing a lot of variability into there compared to like doing something maybe that's less stable, right? So they make these bars that kind of like wobble on your way up, and what those train is, not only are you training your pectoral muscles, but you're also training all these stabilizer muscles in your shoulders as well, to make your arms more stable when you're doing that pushing motion. So the point that I'm kind of really trying to get at here is that a lot of modern gym culture, bodybuilding culture, all of that, it has a role, obviously, in building strength and size. And if that is your goal, then maybe that's what you lean more towards more. But for an athletics standpoint or tactical athlete standpoint, you really need to be doing things that are very applicable to the tasks that you're going to be doing. So carrying heavy loads, cardio, being able to have good endurance and run long distances, and mental stuff plays into there as well. This video is obviously about the physical aspect, but your mental strength as well, and maybe that's another video we'll talk about more in the future. But yeah, so the point that like I said, the point that I'm just trying to get at in this first portion of the video is that modern bodybuilding, or maybe not modern bodybuilding, but just bodybuilding in general, is not necessarily the goal that we're going here for. Like myself, I do days specific that are strength with those very specific isolated movements, but I also throw in days that are more functional, right? So maybe I do some kettlebell work where I'm working multiple muscles at the same time. And those are going to be the exercises that are really beneficial to becoming a better tactical athlete, because, being like picking items up and carrying heavy loads and bending over and bending back up and doing all this is not using just one muscle. You're using many muscles. So being able to do exercises that are going to properly correlate to those movements that you might be doing out in the field or some other case scenario is going to be more beneficial to you than doing those strict, heavy squats and heavy bench presses and stuff like that. Now, don't let that discourage you from, not doing those things. Like I said, they have their role, but this is just pointing out that you should also be adding in those functional workouts as well. All right, so now that I've kind of rambled on a little bit in that last section, you heard me say a lot tactical athlete, right? Now, I know I gave some examples, but I really want to define what a tactical athlete is, or at least what I believe a tactical athlete is. Obviously, people are going to have different opinions on what they think, but this is really what I think are the core principles. So being a tactical athlete not only is being strong, but it is also having endurance and resilience, right? So I'm going to give some examples. Now, as a tactical athlete, some things you should be able to do is, like I mentioned, carrying heavy loads for hours on end, right? So heavy ruck marches, stuff like that. Just being able to carry a lot of weight on your back, on your body for extended periods of time. Now, to kind of go along with that is being able to navigate and traverse uneven terrain. So a really prime example of this is hiking, right? Myself, I'm an avid hiker. I love hiking. It's another passion / hobby of mine that I do. Not only is it, you get to see great views, but it's actually super beneficial because you're training your body to maneuver across uneven terrain, right? When you're going up a really steep mountain, it's not perfectly flat. You're going to be going across rocks, you're up steep terrain, you're going to be coming down steep terrain. And what you're doing is you're strengthening all those tendons and all those small muscles that help stabilize your legs, right? So in your ankles, you're kind of bulletproofing your ankles and your knees in a way because you're making them more stable, right? So that's some benefits of hiking and just being able to walk and navigate uneven terrain. I think as a tactical athlete, that is another extremely important thing that you should be able to do. Now, another thing that I think you should be able to do, and this is kind of where the mental piece ties into the physical piece, right, is being able to make sound decisions when you're fatigued. So being able to make a decision after maybe a long, heavy ruck march or a long hike, having the ability to still make decisions is extremely important as a tactical athlete, right? Because let's say you're in some sort of scenario where you've been walking for several hours with a lot of weight on you, and you find yourself in, we'll say, like a firefight, right? You need to be able to make quick decisions still, even though you're maybe fatigued or exhausted from the hours that you've just been walking. You still need to be able to make those quick decisions to, get out of that situation. So I think that's something that's also extremely important for being a tactical athlete. And then the last thing that I kind of just want to hit on for this section is just being able to, put out effort for hours on end. Like I had mentioned, rucking for hours, hiking for hours, running for over an hour, 2 hours, whatever it might be. Being able to do that and still give efficient and effective output is extremely important for being a tactical athlete, because you're going to find yourself in scenarios where it's not like the gym where you show up, you work out for an hour or two and you go home. You might be out in the field, you might be in some urban terrain for who knows how long. Could be a whole day, could be 2 days, could be 3 days. And you need to be able to continuously put out effort, right? Obviously rest plays into a role in that because you need to give your body rest, but being able to give out physical effort and mental effort for hours on end is extremely important as a tactical athlete. All right, so now I'm going to talk about kind of 4 principles when it comes to working out, right, as a tactical athlete. So the first topic that I'm going to touch on is compound carries, right? So what do I mean by this? So instead of focusing on those very specific exercises like, bench press and stuff like we talked about, maybe throwing in some other exercises such as like different forms of carries, right? So you got like farmer's carries, or maybe holding weight in front of you, whatever. Just being able to put weight on your body in different positions and carry it for a distance is something that's extremely beneficial, because like I talked about, you're going to have times where you're going to be carrying lots of weight for extended periods of time, and you're not going to be working one specific muscle, right? So doing these different carries are going to help strengthen your core muscles, and it's going to help, make your body way more stable. So this is going to allow you to have more stability side to side, front to back, stuff like that. So adding exercises that's going to promote that core activation to help keep your body stable is extremely important, because it's going to directly correlate to when you have large amounts of weight on your back, being able to not keep have yourself from leaning back. You're going to be able to keep yourself up because your core muscles will be nice and well and strengthened. So you'll be able to keep yourself balanced. All right, so the next kind of piece of this involves cardio. Now, if you're an avid runner, maybe, I'm sure you've heard of this. Even if you're not, I'm sure you've probably heard of this. And it's zone 2 running over just pure HIIT exercises. Now, HIIT exercises do play a very crucial role in improving your VO2 max, which is essentially the maximum amount of oxygen that your body can utilize during exercise. That's just kind of a simplistic way to put it, right? It plays a very beneficial role in that and improving your VO2 max, essentially reducing the amount of oxygen you need to do more physical activity. But zone 2 cardio is something that you should be doing as well. Now, zone 2 cardio, basically, when it comes to running and different forms of cardio like bicycle, you name it, right? There's different zones. You have zone 1, which is essentially like a resting heart rate. And then you have zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. There's 5 zones. We're only going to focus on zone 2. Zone 2 is essentially 60 to 70% of your maximal heart rate. Now, a simple rule of thumb that you can use to kind of figure out your max heart rate is just take the number 220 and subtract your age, right? That'll give you a general area to kind of base your zone 2 off of, for your heart rate. So doing cardio, like running in this zone 2, is extremely beneficial. There's been tons of research done on zone 2 running, just to kind of prove its, benefits. Now, what is zone 2 running going to actually help you with? So it's going to improve the basically the speed that you can run at and the distance you can go, right? You'll notice over time, the more you run or the more you bike or whatever in zone 2, the faster you'll be able to go, right? So we'll say 1 month, maybe you run, we'll say 5 miles at 9-minute pace, right? And you maintain zone 2 the whole time. Maybe you continue, right? You continue to work out, you continue to run, whatever, in that zone 2. And after maybe a month, maybe 2 months, now you're running an 8:30 or an 8-minute mile pace in zone 2. This is kind of like the benefits that you'll see, right? And being able to maintain that zone 2 at a quicker pace is also going to allow you to run a longer distance, right? Because you're not going to be using as much oxygen, you're not going to be using as much energy to run that pace and that distance, right? So you're extending your body's capability to basically improve, you're improving your endurance. You can go further and you can go quicker. That's basically the most simplistic example that I can think of for zone 2. All right, so the next piece that I'll talk about, the third thing, we kind of already touched on, so I'm not going to go, super in depth, but that's tendon strengthening. Now, I kind of talked about it a little bit when I was talking about hiking as an example, right? And uneven terrain. So doing things that are going to strengthen your tendons and all those small muscles in your joints is something that is extremely, I think, important, right? And it's a necessity to do, because you're going to make your body more resilient by doing so. So going down steep inclines, standing on uneven surfaces and doing ankle rolls and stuff like that is going to help strengthen those tendons and all those small ligaments and muscles around your joints to make your joints more stable. And the more stable your joints are, the less they'll hurt during activity, and the less chance of having an injury you'll have. Yeah, I couldn't get the words out there for a second. But just strengthening your tendons and your ligaments is extremely important, especially like as you age, right? As your body ages, those things tend to get weaker. So by building them up, you're just like prolonging the life of your knees or your ankles or whatever, your shoulders, right? So take care of your joints, strengthen those tendons, and it'll help with your running, it'll help with your lifting, it'll help with your hiking, just all of it. So as a tactical athlete, it's extremely important that you do that to, just improve your overall fitness. Not in the sense that most people kind of think about stress. When I'm talking about stress, I'm talking about like physical stress, right? So I think it's extremely important as a tactical athlete to induce physical stress and then perform some sort of action, right? So an example I can think of is maybe you do some sprints, right? Like while you're out on the range, you do some sprints up and down to get that heart rate going, get you kind of out of breath a little bit, and then you run through some sort of shooting course, right? I think that is a extremely good example and task that you can do to help improve not only your decision making, but your physical ability to perform actions while you're under physical stress. And this is a direct correlation to being a tactical athlete, because during tactical scenarios or whatever it might be that you find yourself in, being able to still perform physically demanding tasks and make those decisions even after like being gassed is extremely important, right? Because I'll go back to that firefight scenario, right? Maybe you're sprinting around, like we'll say you're in an urban setting and you're running between buildings or whatever it is, or you're just running around, you're going to get out of breath, right? That's just how our bodies work. So being able to still shoot targets or whatever, even while you're exhausted or you're out of breath, is extremely important and also a necessity for being a tactical athlete. All right, well, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. I do appreciate you watching. Just a few things before I do go. Like I had mentioned in the beginning of the video, I am a pre-physical therapy student, so I do study, exercise and all of that related stuff as well. So this is a field that I study, that I try to verse myself in and become, more knowledgeable as I go. So I hope this video was helpful. Maybe you learned something new, and I hope it's some piece of advice that you'll take carrying forward as you continue to train, your fitness. Like I said, having the cool guy gear and all that is great. Don't get me wrong. I love gear as well, but you have to have the fitness to back it up, or else it's just pointless, honestly, So yeah, that's kind of all I got for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you did like it, maybe leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see future content like this, consider subscribing as well. Without further ado, though, I'll see you in the next one.